All right, welcome everyone back to another episode of the American Dream podcast. This week we have Sam with Clarion Claims Group. We'll kind of just let you jump in, kind of tell your story, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, well, that's a long story, so I'll keep to the important parts, right? I right out of high school, joined the army. That didn't work out, messed up my back, got kicked out of that. So went on and it was kind of like my whole plan. I was like, well, I'm gonna slack off in high school, I'll join the military. Sounds like a great gig. And that didn't even work out, right? Couldn't do that right. So moved on, worked some odd and end jobs, eventually settled into a career at Valvoline, the oil change place, and moved up to management, joined on their acquisition team, taking over, different companies they'd buy and converting them to their brand and their operation. So I learned a lot of hands-on operation business stuff from them from a large company, which is what I would recommend most people do. If you have any entrepreneurial ventures, go learn from someone that knows what they're doing, that's had success.
Yep.
But took that on, and then 2020 hit. Same as a lot of people, had a career change. Got into door-to-door sales for roofing because it was essential. I don't know if it's actually essential, but it was essential enough.
Yeah.
Got into supplementing and worked with some national companies and landed here. So now I own a public adjusting firm.
Sure. No, a pretty incredible story. And I know you had talked a little bit about, rental houses and doing some of that. How did that kind of go in? Because I think that was kind of your first entry into kind of your own thing, more or less.
It was, yeah. So right, let's see, it was while I was still at Valvoline. I had,
Yeah.
extra money, and so buddy of mine were like, hey, we have cash. We both, I bought my first house at 19. It was just a townhome, but it was a little bit of fixer upper. So I started working on that and flipped that, had some cash. And then I bought another house and had some cash. And I was like, let's go buy some rental properties. So we went on to buy, in total, we had 16 units across all of them, a fiveplex, triplex, some duplexes. And
Sure.
yeah, it was a lot of hands on, and they were all up north, Duluth, Cloquet, Superior, Eveleth,
Well,
right? So you're dealing with 100-year-old homes. And so everything you learned on YouTube is not prevalent anymore, right? Like
Yep.
they don't prepare you. I mean, you could watch every episode of This Old House and you're going to uncover some new stuff. But yeah, that was the first entrepreneurial venture, was getting into buying rental properties. Rental businesses are probably the easiest first step to entrepreneurship, right? It's very simple. There's very, it's fixed expenses, this money in, this money out. You're typically not dealing with employees when you first start.
sure.
The tax side of it's really easy, right? You're probably not going to owe much in taxes. So yeah, it was a really great first step into entrepreneurship.
I see a lot of people get sucked into buying properties and stuff, and they think it's everything they see on the YouTube, like you said, and that's the most passive income you can have out there. Can you explain kind of what that process was like? I know there's some passive income sides to it, but it's not as easy as people always make it seem either once you get in there and really start opening things up.
I'll put it this way: I will never buy another rental property in my life unless it's a minimum of maybe 60 or 80 units and can afford to have a property manager on site, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'll
Sure.
buy rentals, I'll buy a duplex, I'll buy a house and rent it.
Yeah.
All you're doing is buying your own job, right?
Yeah.
Like when
Sure.
you actually look at it, it is, a lot of people get confused. They're like, well, so many millionaires and rich people have rental properties. They have rental properties because it's an asset class, because it's an
Yeah.
investment. It's not
Investment.
a,
Exactly.
yeah, it's not a business model in that sense. It's not, especially in today's market, right? It's so saturated. It's not a cash flow business, right? You should get something that gets you cash, and then that's where you
Yep.
park it.
Mhm.
Yep.
But yeah, the hands-on side of it, like you said, it's a lot harder than people think, especially when they're 2 hours from your house, right? I don't live
Yeah.
in Duluth, but it
Yeah.
Yeah.
was where I could afford properties, right? And I would
Sure.
never shop where I could afford something again. I'll shop where it makes sense to have it. But yeah, you're fixing toilets, you're getting calls at 2 a.m. that something's wrong, or this con fire, or that, and so
Yep.
you just, too many gurus online will tell you it's great, it's passive income, and at the end of the day, passive income does not exist. It's not real. There's no business of passive income. Everything requires a certain amount
Yep.
of activity for it to happen.
Sure.
It's funny because a lot of those people on YouTube are making how much they're making the majority of their money doing what? YouTube, not
Yeah.
with the rental
Hmm.
properties. They're making money telling people how to do rental properties, which is
The
funny.
best way to make money in duplexes is tell people how to buy duplexes.
Yeah. Heck of
Exactly.
a thing. You also talked a little bit about partnerships, and we have on the podcast as well about good partnerships, bad partnerships. What sets them up for success and definite failures. I've had the experiences. Blake's had experiences with partnerships. Both good and bad. share a little bit about kind of what you learned, with the partnerships and how you've kind of altered that, how you go into things now compared to, early on where you're a little more eager and just kind of going with the flow.
Early on, I was super eager for partnerships. I was like, this is great. We're going to split the work. It's going to be great. Split the money going in. We'd be off to the races. It doesn't work that way. I'll probably never have a partnership again. And not to say never ever, but it's very difficult. If you are going to partner with someone, make sure there's someone that has ran a business on their own, right?
Mhm.
The issues with the partnerships I had, both came down to money, right? It's a marriage. You marry these people. Number one cause of divorce is money.
Money.
Same thing in
Yep.
business partnerships, right? And I don't want to talk negatively on either of those people or say anything, foul about them, but both instances involved money being withdrawn that shouldn't have been withdrawn, that the business was relying on, and that inevitably leads to quite a few issues, as you could
Oh yeah.
imagine.
Oh yeah.
The first one was, 6 digits worth of money taken out. The second time around, it was 7 digits,
Yep.
Oofta.
and suddenly you're like,
Oh boy.
well, payroll's in 2 days,
Yeah, we got
and how's that
things.
going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
definitely
yeah, they're
been.
what was that?
No, I said that's definitely a good takeaway for partnerships, and it's always amazing, how that changes people with the money and what it can do to you, and just how people's perception is different, and maybe their own vision, and it's unfortunate because people, you go in and you have the best intentions and all things are great, but when it comes down to it and you get to the end of the year or payroll or things get tough, you really start to see the true colors of people, and yeah, it is definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking on just partnership side of things, just to kind of shed some light on that and maybe get some insight from you with partnerships that you've been involved. Is there something you would have done differently other than not being in a partnership? Let's say you're currently in a partnership and it's not going away anytime soon. What would be some insight you could have? Like I know there's some buy sell agreements to have set up, you know, obviously first. That should be done like sooner than later, but those things aren't always set up. So is there maybe some insight you could give on how you got out of those partnerships or how maybe it could have been done differently?
If I was doing different, it would have been, 50-50 partnerships are tough in general, right? Any kind
Yeah,
of partnership that you're going to structure 50-50 is going to be near impossible, right? I think every partnership should probably have a 51-49 overruling.
Sure.
sure.
Uh, and it's got to be based off who has the most experience, right? And the issue is, remember that half the time you're going to win and half the time you're going to lose, right? And
Yeah.
I think everyone goes into it like, I'll be the 51%.
Yeah.
The other person should be 49. I guarantee all three of us would really struggle at being a 49% in a
Oh
company,
yeah.
right?
Oh
It
Yeah.
would be
big time.
impossible for us. So it's sometimes I look back and wish, hey, maybe I took that 49%. I wish I had stepped down a little bit because ultimately it would took a lot of weight off my shoulders. But also probably would have saved a lot of the arguing. So never 50-50, never 33-33-33, right? One person in charge. And it should be a mutual agreement. You shouldn't step down and give that up just because. You should do it
Yeah.
because that person has a view or has a vision and can run it the right direction. But the other thing is the money, right? Both my
Yep.
partnerships were from money being withdrawn out of bank accounts. And so if I had to give anyone advice on structuring a partnership, it would be a business account neither person should have access to. The business account, you should hire a bookkeeper and they should be the sole person that can authorize and subtract stuff out of there. It should not be one of your or both your checking account, right? A business checking account you both have a card for, right? That's not going to work. And you should have a separate account for that where you can run transactions and daily needs, right? And
Yep.
that's
Yep.
something as an agreement, like, hey, anything under $50 a day, we don't need authority for.
Sure.
We can just do it. That's
Yep.
critical. But a well-run operations agreement and a bank account no one can touch would have saved me a lot of issues.
Yep. No, that's definitely a huge part of keeping that separate. I've learned that early on with a similar experience of, you get to the end of the year and all of a sudden there's no money and it's just gone magically. But just having, setting up more of an S corp, paying yourself a salary that's, it's calculated. It's not, I want to go on vacation, so I need 20 grand this month, and maybe next month it's 10, and then maybe it's 50 because I want a new boat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, a reflection of mine that I've done is just holding yourself accountable to a salary, and that's what you get. And if there's something where you want to make a withdrawal at the end of the year, well, now it's more of a business type decision where all parties involved can make that decision saying, yes, we want to take out X dollars, and everyone gets their cut, if you will, and do that. So I think that's definitely a
I would
huge.
say the S corp and the set salaries is great for most companies. The issue is, I think a lot of the people listening to this might be just getting in the entrepreneur space, right? You have no income,
Yep.
right? You're not going to do an S corp if you're only going to make 30 grand, or maybe it's a side gig, and
Yep.
it's very hard to. You're not going to have a set income, and so the other thing I would say is like you should part of your operations agreement is that no one gets to take any money year one, right? Like you should be working a full-time job. I think the majority of people should not start a business, quit their job and start a business, right? That always drives me crazy. You can fully start a business while working a full-time day job, and it will
Yep.
save you a lot of gray hairs. But
Yep.
do that so you're not relying on that business money, because both times it's when the person was relying on just that money that led to the issues.
Sure.
One thing I've heard just from some people talking on YouTube is do your 9 to 5 and then do your 5 to 9, and then until your 5 to 9 can replace your 9 to 5, then you shouldn't be
Is that
doing it.
Cody Sanchez? Is that who said that?
It might be. I don't know.
Yeah,
When I was looking through some of the answers you filled out, we follow a lot of the similar people. So,
very
between
much.
Alec Hermosi and Dan Martell, I just got done reading his book, Buy Back Your Time, and maybe you got a couple of them laying around.
This book?
That one right
Yep. That one
there.
right
That one
there.
right there.
Yep.
So yeah, I've been living by that book this year. That's been a huge like driver on some of the decisions with hiring an assistant and really auditing that time and breaking that down. So yeah, uh, speaking about kind of those people, and there's a lot of free resources out online. And as from what you answered in your questionnaire, you learned a lot from those free resources on YouTube. Can you kind of explain maybe some of the big takeaways you've had, or some of those things that have really impacted your business from free value out on the internet?
I wouldn't even know where to start because there's so much, right? I mean, I have consumed thousands and thousands of hours of YouTube to an unhealthy level, right? I don't watch TV, I don't watch movies, I don't play video games. I purely work or listen to stuff about work, right? There is no in
Yep.
between. Not saying it's a healthy approach, but I've consumed way more of it than one human probably should. But the benefits, something I'd mentioned prior, is that a lot of people that I talk to, especially younger, like, oh, well, I don't know, who to follow or who to, I don't have a mentor or I don't have anyone to teach me about money. And it's like, you have like the entire internet, right?
Yep.
A mentor doesn't have to be someone that you know. It doesn't have to be your uncle, your dad. It doesn't have to be someone else in your life. A mentor can be someone you just follow and listen to, and spend time with listening, right? They say it's or the accumulation of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, maybe the first one or two is family, next 3 and 4, that's friends, and number 5 should probably be someone that's where you wanna be,
Yep.
and spend time with them. Even if I was with a lot of those people, Alex Hormozy, if I was with him in person, I can promise you I would not be talking. I would be listening the whole time, so how is it any different than listening to a YouTube video?
Yep.
Probably
Just
better a YouTube
absorbing.
video
Yep.
because it's already edited down and I can get way more in way less time, right? I'd
Yep.
probably pick a YouTube video over spend actual time with them. And so, all that to say, a lot of people that I talk to that want to get into entrepreneurship and want to get in business, they always come back with, well, I don't know who to like. I need a mentor. I need someone to like teach me the ropes. It's like, perfect. Find that person online. That's who you should
Yep.
follow. And that's your mentor now.
Mhm.
How have you navigated, because there is so many different things online, and how do you like take all that information in and then make actionable steps on that? Because I'm in a similar boat where it's like a uncomfortable addiction of how much like business stuff you consume and how all in like on making that 1% better every single day. It's like you get all spun out on so many different things. It can be difficult to really narrow down like which direction you really want to go and what kind of plan to put into action. Has there been something that you've learned over the years of consuming all that information to really, make actionable steps?
I'm just really, really terrible at multitasking. So it
Mhm.
ends up not being that much of an issue.
Sure.
No, it's actually comes down exactly what we talked about before is a lot of those people, if you actually listen to what they talk about, right? They talk about going all in on one thing. Don't get distracted. Actually, Hermosi has posted a video like a week or two about that exact topic.
Mhm.
And so it is figure out your one topic and fully lean into it. But that doesn't mean I don't listen to things about real estate, don't listen to these other things, right? But it's I listen to them and how do I apply them to one specific. So I don't know if I could necessarily say to answer your question, what's the what's the method I've discovered to like stay on path with one specific thing other than just
Going
the
all in.
discipline.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the discipline side of it is like I would love to go buy rental properties. I love looking at real estate. I love fixer uppers. I love flipping cars. I have passions and many other things business related that I can go make money with. And I have to stop and remind myself, nope, sitting here and writing this email is what's going to make my bills. And this is what's going to make my dreams come true. And don't leave my desk, right? Don't hop
Yep.
on realtor. Don't hop on, look at any properties. No LoopNet, just for the entertainment factor. Don't call a realtor and just try to get a good deal, even though you have no plans of buying it, right? It's like
Yep.
some people do with Facebook Marketplace. They'll lowball people for fun. I'm that way with real estate. It's not healthy. Brokers hate me, but with that being said, it's that's discipline. That's what you're talking about is how do you
Yep.
stay focused
Mhm.
on one thing? It's saying no to everything else. That's
Sure.
the
Yep.
skill. Saying no to what doesn't align with the goals. But to do that, you have
Yep.
to be crystal clear on your goal, right? What
Yep.
is your goal? If you don't have a 1 year goal, write it down, figure it out, spend 2 hours doing it. You need a 5 year, 10 year. Without that, you don't know what to say yes and no to.
Yeah, I think that saying no is definitely a. I mean, I'm just as guilty of it. And we're finally kind of getting to that point because when you first start business, you're eager. You don't really know if it's going to make it. And you're just saying yes to everything because you don't know what the future holds. And I think that's just such a huge piece is being confident and doubling down on the things that are working and are paying the bills. Because it's so easy to get caught in everything else. There's so much noise. There's so much opportunity, especially when you flip that switch into the entrepreneurial spirit. And I can definitely sense that you're the same way. Like you kind of get the squirrel, like I could go make money here and here and here and here and all these different things. But saying no is where I think the real, it's so simple, but I think that's really where you start to find that your true gears and doubling down on a
Calling and
thing and on the one thing and being the very best at it, which we'll get into here a little bit when we talk about Clarion Claims, which you've started. But that's exactly what you're doing, right? You saw the void, you're taking that business, and you're not just like everybody else. You want to create the machine that is known nationally, and be the very best about it. So I think that's a huge takeaway on kind of that entrepreneurial journey.
You said something that made me think there. It's the saying no to stuff, especially as a new business, right? When you start getting all these offers, you're like you can make cash here, there, and everywhere. Um, Apply your entrepreneurial thought process to it, right? I've actually found I don't say no a lot, right? I don't say no. But what I say is, let me find you someone that can do that work.
Sure.
And I end up building great connections, right? And it actually has led plentiful to work coming back to me. So now when someone asks me, hey, can you offer this service? I initially want to say yes. I stop myself. It doesn't line up with my goals. I say no. And then I go, hey, let me see who I can find that could do that for you. I can't, but I bet I could find you someone.
yep.
It allows me to, connect with new people, meet new people. And then when I send work to those people, like call them out of the blue, hey, I have someone that needs your services. Is this something you do? Or maybe it's someone in your network. Instantly, they are like, oh my gosh, I'm in debt to you. What do you need? What can I do for
Yep.
you?
Sure.
Right. And sometimes it's getting a kickback. Most of the time, it's guess what happens when they run into someone, right?
Yep.
And
They're
realtors are
calling you.
great at this, right? They teach
Yep.
you this in realtor school 101. Like, go help everyone else and they'll send stuff, send your leads your way. It's like, same thing. Don't say no to the work. Just
Yep.
find
Yep.
someone that can say yes to it for them.
Yep.
Yep.
Definitely be a resource. So let's get into Clarion Claims, and just kind of explain, just for everyone listening, kind of where that journey began for you. I know you got into the supplementing and saw that void, but just kind of explain how that journey was, when you started to get into the supplementing and then into the PA side of things was a little more technical.
Yeah. Well, I would say 99.99% of Americans have no clue what a public adjuster or supplementer are. So I'll go even 30,000 feet above that to give a really quick summary. And so a public adjuster, which I own a public adjuster firm now, it's kind of like a law office, right? As they have multiple attorneys, we have multiple public adjusters. What we do is we represent homeowners on their insurance claims when they get denied. So if your insurance company comes out and says, "Hey, we're not gonna pay for your roof for the hail damage up there, we don't see it," you hire us, we argue it. Same as if you have a fire in your house, a flooded basement, hurricane hits it, right? You hire a public adjuster. We come out, we document everything, we submit it, we make the arguments, we help, the escalation if it needs to go beyond us. And so that's what we do. We represent homeowners in their claims. A step below that, and not below in a bad way, but a step below that would be being a supplementer. So as a public adjuster, we're a licensed official. We have licensure, we have to take testing, we have to have bonds, insurance, all these other things, right? A step below that would be a contractor. A contractor is the one doing the work, but they're going to hire someone in their company as a supplementer. And what a supplementer does is they're specifically related to contractors that do insurance claims, and they'll argue for claims as well, trying to get them approved. The difference is, as a public adjuster, we can discuss policy, we can argue things farther, we can file complaints, we can talk to managers, we can do a lot more. A supplementer as a contractor, you can only argue the repairability, the scope of the work, the price most of the time. Sometimes that's a gray area, and the damages, right? So you can really only discuss a very narrow pocket of overall what really goes on in a claim. So with that being said, is I came from doing door-to-door sales for a contractor, moved into doing supplementing for a contractor. So I was arguing with insurance companies, and I ended up seeing that a lot of the claims, I was working for a national company at the time. They were operating, I want to say it's 9 different states in total. And overseeing all the different claims that came through there, I was like, hey, a lot of these as a contractor, we're trying to argue and win them for homeowners, but they're not winnable for a contractor because they're saying, hey, this isn't owed for from the policy. They're using the policy to stonewall us, to shut us down, saying, hey, it's not owed. Well, as a contractor, you can tell them it's damaged as much as you want, but if that damage isn't covered in the policy, what are you going to do? And if you discuss policy, well, you're getting a big fine. That's UPA, UPPA, unlicensed practice of public adjusting, right? You'll get shut down and get a big fine. So, what are you supposed to do when they hit you with policy? So, for that contracting company, I said, hey, why don't we send a ton of these to public adjusters? So I ended up cold calling and networking, connecting with public adjusters in a handful of the different states and said, hey, here's what we have going on. We have a stack of claims that need your help, that just need someone with a license that can just discuss the policy. We already know where route it's going to go. We just need you to fight this, the last little step, right? And so connected with some of them, sent it out to them. Uh, and then at a certain point, I was like, oh, I could do that. Why don't I just go
We're
get
onto
my own
something here.
public adjuster license? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like sending these guys all these files, and I'm like,
Wait.
I
You're
kind
doing
of
all
want
the work
this.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and not getting paid for it, right? I wasn't getting a commission split or nothing for sending them files and getting it approved. So, and I wasn't making any money, more money at the contracting company because, well, I was just, sitting there making calls
Supplement.
on my
Yep.
normal salary. So wasn't really there. But decided to start my own PA firm. But also before that, I'd worked with 6 or 7 different contractors throughout the state of Minnesota. So I already had a relationship with a lot that I'd been doing the supplementing on the side for as well. I was like, hey, I'm not going to do the supplementing anymore. I'm going to start a PA firm. If you have files that make sense, refer the customers over to us. And so since then, we now have 22 different contractors we work with. We're licensed in 8 states. We have 2 full-time PAs and a couple other, contracted PAs that help when we have large losses in different states that require some on-site stuff. And so, uh, for the most part, kind of went from, it was a slow progression, right? I didn't go from mowing grass to going, I'm gonna start SpaceX, right? I was
Yeah.
very much like, it was just a slow progression. I'm gonna sell roofs where I'm arguing with them. All right, I'm just gonna do the arguing part. All right, I'm gonna get my license. All right, I'm gonna train others to do it. Right? It was a
Yep.
very smooth flow in the reality, which pisses me off. I'll tell you, as an entrepreneurial, right? I'm like, I want to go do something crazy. I want to go start a manufacturing plant when I have
Yeah.
no clue anything about manufacturing because learning those new things are what interests you. But it was one of those where I had to take a step back and go, how can I accomplish those 1, 5, and 10 year goals? And
Yep.
it has to be something I can already flow into.
Yep.
Sure.
So how have you taken a business that's been like an industry that's been around for so long and put the newer age touch on it with AI and systems and SOPs and streamlining that? Like, it can be a daunting task, and you're dealing with hundreds of files and all the things and all these customers across all these states. How have you been able to really bring that all in and stay focused through that whole process with some of those newer technologies?
Well, part of it comes from the background of owning companies before, and right, like I've had enough failures to learn what didn't work. So narrowing down to what did work was a little easier. But day one, I had a near and dear friend of mine that does business consulting and has been successful in business. And I said, hey, you've had a lot of luck at building companies. Instead of trying to do it all on my own, can I hire you as a consultant? Day one, right? We had no income,
Yep.
no revenue. I didn't have money saved up. I was like, but I'm gonna hire you. And I guarantee what you bring will more than make up for it, right?
Yep.
And so day one brought him on and said, all right, what do I start with? He goes, well, you know what to start with. And I'm like, but what would you start with?
Yeah.
Like, that's what
Let
I
me hear
need to
it.
know, right? And so, yeah, from day one, it was anything and everything I did. I recorded, documented, took notes on as much as I could remember to, right? Don't get
Sure.
everything, but
Yep.
it
Yep.
was anything, anytime I had to do something twice, I said, okay, I have to write down how I do this, document it. We do a lot of Loom videos, a lot of SOPs, a lot of just writing stuff down, running through ChatGPT, have a conversation with ChatGPT. Hey, here's everything I did.
Yep.
Here's all the steps I took, right? There's a lot of softwares to make it very easy, but it was a lot of just the new age spin on. Well, that's more on the growth side. That's not the new age spin, but the growth side was from day one,
Yep.
bring on a consultant that knows business, make sure I
Been
do the
there,
right
done
steps,
that.
and document everything.
Yep.
On the new age side of things, it was what tools are out there that can save me from having to hire someone.
Sure.
It was
Yep.
really just because I was being cheap. I was like, I have no money. I can't afford an employee. So it was like, okay, if I'm doing this and it's just administrative, right? Moving documentation or emails and things like that, how can I bring on AI? And so I tried to build stuff myself. I had some success, not a lot. It took me longer to fix and make those things, AI systems and workflows work, than it actually saved me. Right. And so that's similar to most of us, right? We've all probably tried Zapier or tried Make, and we're
Oh
like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
it's easier if I just do this because it
Yeah.
gets it wrong half the time. And even when it gets it right, it's still broken.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And I was like, I really just had no clue. And I don't know, grace of God or how it happened, but coincidentally, I was at a Twins game and I ran into a guy who builds AI systems. And come to find out later on that he's actually a friend of a friend. He was a
Sure.
business partner with a friend that I was with. So yeah, long story short, ran to a random stranger that builds AI systems. And I just said, hey, here's what I'm trying to build. Would you want to help? Can you do it for cheap? I have no money, but here's what I'm thinking. And he came on and just blew me out of the water. I was like, I didn't know you could do all this. And
Boom.
I think
Yeah.
a lot of us struggle to ask for help, right? We're like, well, we can figure it out. If we can't figure it out, no one can. Or if
Yep.
we
Yep.
can't figure it out, it's not going to work. And it was super humbling. It was arguably one of the most humbling things that's happened since day one of starting this business. Was I pride myself on being technologically advanced, and then I brought on a dude that does it all day, and man, was I wrong. So that's the
Sure.
answer to your question. How do I bring a new age? Is I brought on someone that does it.
Sure.
That's
And so
all
we
they
have
do.
AI. That's all they do, almost borderline full time, and it is the amount of stuff in our system that is automated. I can answer questions in more depth about if you want, but it is. Uh, so much of it is taking weight off my shoulders. You know,
Sure.
that a lot of people are having to hire someone for 50, 60,000 a year, and I'm spending $100 a year in tokens on an AI platform to run it all.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. That's one thing I've learned to try to, like, when I'm making hires or working with people and collaborating with other people, is like finding people that are the specialists in that one thing I need, instead of a super generalized, okay, you're going to do social media management and scripting and research and this and that, and like you end up all over the place, and then you end up mediocre at all those things. So like finding that niche, the best of the best in that one thing, and working with them, I think, is a huge takeaway, as you've learned.
I agree. I think that's something we should all like on the entrepreneurial side. You just said you don't want someone that's a jack of all trades. You want someone that's specialized. Same thing.
Yep.
We have to hold ourselves to that standard. Like we should be that specialized person in our space. We shouldn't. Someone shouldn't come to us and we're like, oh yeah, we do this, 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 this. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you skilled at? Because that's what people want.
Yep.
Yep.
No, I think that's definitely, especially with how things are changing, and like you said, bringing on new hires, especially as a new business, it's a huge undertaking. I mean, that's more or less where Blake and I are at, as far as getting that new hire. Like, how do we do that? Is it justified? You're kind of making a big leap now. You're relying on or you're providing for a whole another person's pay and family and insurance and etc. And it's such a huge thing. And there's I mean so many tools out there, and that's almost part of the problem, or what I've struggled with, because there are so many tools. So it's like, how do you zero that in to use one or two? Because if you have 10, you're only going to use two, because you're not going to use all 10 at the end of the day. And so just kind of zeroing that in, and I think that's a huge takeaway, just to kind of find a specialist that's done it, and can build. You just tell them what you want, right? And then they build a system that will help and provide the solutions, for you. So
Anyone that's listening wondered, well, I've been in business 30 years or 20 years, and how do I find these young kids that can build this stuff? Well, you could go on TikTok. That's a good spot to find them. But Fiverr, right? You can go on Fiverr. You can go on and just Google AI workflow specialist, and you can find them, but they're not on Indeed, right? These people aren't applying for
Yeah.
full-time jobs,
No.
right? They're not Indeed, they're not on ZipRecruiter. And I think that's where a lot of companies miss out is like a lot of people nowadays, the people that are most specialized that can really do the best work, they just want to do these one-off projects. They just want to
Yep.
bounce around. And
Make a
that's
couple
where
of
you got to
grand
find them.
and get in and get out.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly.
So you've talked about, I know you've talked about like your Clarion University. So bringing people on, really getting people specialized in what you're doing. And again, kind of raising that bar for all public adjusters. Sounds like it was a little bit of a dated industry. Tell us a little bit more of kind of why you started that and how you're hoping that to, make your business continue to scale and grow.
Yeah. So right now it is just internal, and I build it out as much as I can, but it's very time consuming.
Yep.
But the goal is essentially to build everything from day one of this business that we did and documenting the whole journey. And
Sure.
then also documenting how to be a public adjuster, what the different steps are, how we handle the claims, every single thing within our business from how we actually do it to how we do the business. The goal is to have all that documented so we can use this Clarion University and eventually sell it, right? We'll,
Sure.
share it and offer people to join it. But the whole purpose around it was, the number one issue with employees is they don't have the information, right?
Yep.
Most people
Yep.
show up to work and they want to do a good job. They just need to know how, right? They need that support. They need the advice. And we expect them to know everything we know, but then how much of your time are you spending with them?
Yep.
2 hours when they start, maybe a 30-minute meeting during the week, maybe two phone calls, and you're like, man, I don't understand why they're not doing everything I can. It's like, okay, so how can I download all that? How can I download everything out of my brain and upload
Mhm.
it for you? And that's what Clarion University is, and what it's going to be is everything that we learn. It's not just me and the company; it's everything. And we're hoping by the end of the year that we can have that live and public, to where anyone that wants to get into public adjusting or get into what we do, or just see the business side of things, could all log on there and see it.
Sure.
Have you brought in AI for like data collecting all that information? Because I know Dan Martell talks on one of those is like you almost installing like an AI into your day to day, and it kind of tracks and records and categorizes, and like it ends up being like an extension of you. So like an employee can ask that person who isn't necessarily you, but it's gathered all your information, and they can ask it a question and get a like a correct answer back, which is crazy.
I have
Have,
not, but you should email me the link to whatever software that is, because that
okay,
sounds great.
I will. He went through it just a couple weeks ago. I think he broke down like his 9 AI tools he uses in his day to day life, and that was one that stuck. And I actually was just talking to Cole about that the other day. Of like we run around like a million miles an hour, and like we need more of us. It's like how do we get there without even hiring isn't necessarily the solution for that, because you still have to train them and do all the things. So like that's where you're documenting things, which is a huge step. Like we do
Massive.
similar things to that as well. But how do you organize and categorize that and make it so it's actually a usable tool? Because nobody wants to sit and watch, you know, 30 days of footage
Loom
to try and
videos.
figure out what the heck's going on. So
It's true. I mean, that kind of comes back to what we were talking about, like the technology, though, right? We talked about like building these AI systems are so hard, and like it takes more time than it's worth. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we get to this point of like, well, hiring an employee, like for me to onboard them and train them and take those hours out of my day, that's more than what they're worth, right? Like
Mhm.
that's more than the value they're going to bring. And it makes me kind of stop right now and go, huh, maybe I need a recruiter. Maybe I
Yeah.
need HR. Maybe I need someone that can onboard and train these
yep,
employees, right? Because same issue we had with the AI systems is
yep,
exactly what we're saying with employees. And that's the
yep,
logic that we should apply.
Yep.
yep,
No, definitely. And then those, Dan Martell talks about a lot is just that first, big hire is almost your most important one, right? And I've learned that for sure. And hopefully bringing on someone that I, can do that, because it's such a huge trust point. And man, that is the most key hire, that first person, someone that has that initiative to like, that first big hump is hard to get over, because it's just you that knows everything, the day to day, you've been doing everything. And so to instill that, you need that right person to kind of take the reins and fill in where is needed. And that's just obviously not very easy with hiring employees these days. So talk a little bit. Obviously, you want to continue to grow Clarion, the growth, and be nationally, recognized. What are some other things that you're doing? You talked about the Clarion University. What are some other things that you're looking to do, and resources that you're using to get there?
That is, we are so narrowly focused at this point that is it. It is everything you just said, and this is what will make this one of the worst entrepreneurial interviews you'll ever do is because most entrepreneurs, I'm doing this, I got this, I'm growing this project, and I am so down to the T of like, yeah, everything you just said. That's all we're doing the next 5 years. That's it.
Sure.
There is
Doubling
no other
down.
there is no other cool things going on, right?
Yep.
There is there's some aspects of I'd like to fly planes as a hobby, and so I want to own an airplane where I can fly from state to state for these claims because I'd be able to enjoy my hobby while I'm traveling for work. Um, Outside of that, like that's the only other fun part of
Sure.
this. For now, it's just literally building processes and systems, documenting everything that we go through, handling hundreds and hundreds of these claims, arguing with insurance companies every day. Uh, that's it. That's
Sure.
all my life's gonna be the next 1,500 days.
Yeah.
How do you make peace with some of that downtime? Because that's what gets myself and I'm sure Cole in trouble. It's like you're working on all these projects and then all of a sudden you got like a little break in the action and then your mind starts going, your whiteboard fills up and all of a sudden you're chasing a rabbit down the freaking hole or something. And like how do you like stay disciplined and say no and keep your like mentally strong in those times, I guess, as you're vulnerable.
I think that's just the discipline side, right? It is there is no hack, there is no cheat.
Yeah.
I think part of it is having goals big enough that they keep you on track, though,
Sure.
right? I think that's a
That
lot
are
of
worth
people's. They might get into
sacrificing.
something and what was that?
Big enough goals that are worth sacrificing for.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Right. Like setting a goal of like, I've never wanted anything more than this. Nothing can get in the way. Right. And that's Hermosi talks about it the best, the woman in the red dress. Right. And it's like, how do you avoid it? Well, you either need to be so attracted to your goal that you don't even notice it, or you need to be able to look at it and say no. Those are your only two options. There is no other option. There's no trick. There's no hack. It is just you either have to look at it and go, that's not what I'm going for, or you don't even notice because you're so focused. And for me right now, it's I don't even notice I'm so focused. I don't breathe. I don't sleep. I don't do anything. It's
Yeah.
it's just this all the time. But as
Yep.
you grow, and it's happened a couple times, right, where it's like, oh my gosh, I got one day, like, well, about an hour of a day most of the time, as you probably know, where I'm like, I got an
Yep.
open hour. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
almost
sure enough, I just
uncomfortable.
open a different inbox, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh shit, there it is. Okay,
There
more
it
to
is.
do.
There we go.
Yeah. Have you noticed like any of your friend groups or anything shift over the years of like how dedicated? Like I've noticed that in my life, and I have friends that I truly don't want to lose and whatnot. But it's like I'm so locked in and all in on making my goals become reality that sometimes they get pushed to the side, and it's not that I like want that, but that just like happens. Like it's just kind of part of the game, I guess. Have you experienced things like that, or I don't know? It's kind of an out there question.
Yeah, I have I'm young, so I'll just age myself here. As I'm 28, which means this year I just had my 10-year high school reunion, which
Yep.
was tons of fun, right? And a lot of the people, it's like, hey, I haven't seen you in 10 years, but here's what I've been working on. We connect. It was a great time. We all hung out. And it's kind of like, all right, let's check in again another 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all cheering
Yeah.
for each other. That's a friend, right? What else
Yeah.
do you need? And
Yep.
I think I have a close group of friends. One of my nearest and dearest friends actually is a 74-year-old, right? He's a guy that's in business that
Sure.
has been in business his whole life and great mentor, but also just a close friend. And so for me, to your point of like, well, do you have to give up friendships? Maybe. I never had a lot of those, right? I went to a
Sure.
very small school, grew up in a small town. I had, one, two, three friends, right, that were actually close friends, and all of them are on the same thing. They're all
Yep.
building, growing lives, having kids, doing things. So I think it gets easier. I think a lot of that struggle was, that 18 to 25 range where everyone's still partying and you're like, I don't want to miss out on this, is where most
Yep.
people struggle with it. I think most of us would agree that by 30, most everyone's either got kids or they're focused on their career.
Sure.
And those that aren't are normally pretty easy to drop as friends because if
Yeah.
you've played video
Yep.
games together every day for 12 years, you're probably a little bored of it,
Yeah.
And
You've seen
so
it, done it. Yep. Yep.
it's pretty easy to say no when it's offered at that point. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't have to go through a lot of those trials and tribulations of losing friends and family. It's been,
Sure.
maybe I haven't. I just haven't paid attention. I haven't noticed. Maybe I was so focused. Same thing where that's the woman in the red dress distraction. I didn't even see it happen.
Didn't even
I
see
couldn't
it.
tell you. Someone can comment that I was a terrible friend the last 10 years, but
Yeah. Hit you up.
we'll talk in 2020, 2035,
Yeah.
It's so important though about who you surround yourself with. So I've definitely seen like my inner circle of people change. Obviously, Cole and I have been really close in the last year here, and that's a new like inner circle friendship connection and building and all the things. And but the goals are aligned in their own ways. So like, yeah, it's just an interesting take and it's hard to stay disciplined on that because you have some of those long-term friends that want to go do certain things and sometimes they just don't align. So it can be tempting for sure.
Once again, having that big enough goal, right? If the
Yep.
goal is big enough, it's really easy to say no to things. It's really easy to stay in and work and grind and do what you need to do.
Yep.
But if you set kind of trying to think of the proper term for it, but a lame goal, right? Like you're like, I just want to make 100 grand this year. That's your goal. Pretty easy to give up on that, right? It's setting
Yep.
something so big that you have no choice but to say no. And then when they call and they're like, "Hey, can you do this?" You're like, "No, I can't. I'm doing this." They're like, "Hey, yeah, he's good for it," right? They can
Yep.
hear the genuineness in your voice. If they don't, they're not really a friend, right?
Yep.
I hate
Yep.
to be that guy, but if you tell your friend, "Hey, I'm working on building a business and doing this," and they say, "Oh, you're such a loser, you'll never go anywhere,"
Yeah.
you didn't lose a friend. They were gone a long time ago.
Yep.
I've
Yeah.
never understood that.
Yep. For sure.
No, it definitely is interesting that way, and I have noticed it just with the people you hang out with. They do some of that stuff of like you don't really understand, and you really start to see the true colors, and it's fine. I don't guilt or I don't hold that against them necessarily, but it's you just have different goals, and
I
they're
wish I
raised.
was them.
Yeah, I know
I
some days
wish
I
I
do
could
as well.
go watch sports games and drink on
Yeah,
the weekends and be hungover Monday and be
yeah,
half checked out on Friday. And Tuesday, I might do some meetings. And Wednesday and Thursday, I really grind.
yeah,
I
yeah,
dream that I could do that and not hate my life. I
yeah,
just wasn't born
exactly.
that way, I
No,
guess.
that's yep, no, and that's I
Yep.
think we're all on the same page, for that stuff, and it's just kind of, for us all age, I'm 32 and
32.
32. Well,
Yep.
you just turned 32, so
Yep.
again, it's you're kind of in that spot where you're in that family and people are transitioning, some people aren't, and it's just kind of very interesting or been interesting just to kind of see those true colors come to fruition when you start to do things and people start to truly recognize you when you're picking up a little bit of speed, and they see that. But I think it's a tribute to keep doing what you're doing and continue grinding. So
We're getting to the end of the episode here. We always like to ask our guests if they've had any sort of like quote or anything they wake up to every single day that gets them, you know, geared up, ready to go for the day. One I live by is "Good day for a good day." Yeah, just kind of leave that open for you if there's something that really sticks to you and you drive home.
I mean, not directly related to getting me out of bed in the morning, but the one big one is nothing changes if nothing changes, right? That's been
Sure.
for the last 10 years of my life, constantly in my head is nothing changes, nothing changes. Well, I want this. Why don't I have it
Yep.
yet? Because nothing changed. And
Yep.
so every time I get, change sucks and everyone knows when things change because it's painful and it's uncomfortable and right. But it's every time that something's changing, something's hard. Seek
Yep.
discomfort. That's another great
mhm,
one, right? If I'm comfortable, I'm probably not growing, right?
yeah,
Yep.
You don't feel good when you're growing muscles at the gym. You don't feel
Yep.
good when you're learning new things. And especially now, right? Especially once you start to have some success in business, it's very easy to go, I'm good. I don't need to make more than
yeah,
150 grand a year. And like I got employees and like I'm good. Like I might go enjoy my weekend. I'm gonna
yeah,
go hang out. And it's like, having that discipline to go back to it and just go, no, like this is the goals. I'm gonna
Yep.
make sure I stay on track with it. That's a big one.
yeah.
Cole,
No,
what's
that's awesome.
yours? What's your quote? What's your mantra?
Mantra. Well, I was on board with it. Today is a good day for a good day with Blake. That's been a really thing. That's really stuck out when I did that. Another one we went to Lance Bachman's. Um, he had a mastermind. I went to his conference, and then his mastermind, and one of his was I could bring opportunity, but I can't bring determination. And that was another one that kind of just stuck with me with trying to. I've been a nice guy. I've done different jobs in the past, and I always really like to see the best in people, and it just kind of helped me stay centered around the idea that not everyone wants the same things that you do, and if sometimes I get caught in that, right? Like I have all these minds, and I'm going, and some people are just thinking I'm crazy, and they're just on the same page, with me, and it's like, well, that's fine, but you just got to keep that in check and know who you're talking with and dealing with, especially when you're trying to bring people on board, getting this business running and all the things. You just gotta kind of surround yourself with the right people. So
It's a good thing not everyone's like us.
yeah,
It
exactly.
really
Yeah,
is a good thing because man, what a manic world would we live in, right? Like we
exactly.
need the
No
people
doubt.
that are a little more relaxed. This is not, I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, I wish I had this. I'm like, you don't.
No,
You don't
I
wish
know.
you had any of this stuff. Like, this is miserable. This isn't
yeah,
like, go listen to Hormozy's life. Actually go listen to the videos where he talks about what he does on a day-to-day basis and every single day of his life. It's like most people would hate that, and understandably, right? Like
Yep.
entrepreneurship, I think, is something that if you're born with it and you crave it and you have those goals, keep going for it. I think far too many people, I think for especially the last 5 to 10 years, it's been this, even longer than that, probably 15 or 20 years. It's been this cool thing, right? To be an entrepreneur. Like, I'm growing for business. And Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this all the time. And I didn't quite get it at first, because at first I think a little bit of it when I turned 18 was like, well, yeah, I want all those things. And then when I got into it, I found how much it really spoke to me. But it's like, I have a lot of people come to me that are like, hey, I really want to do this. And I'm like, no, you don't. I see what you do on your weekends. I see what you
Yep.
yeah,
enjoy doing. I see your hobbies, like your
There's no
family. Like,
discipline.
yeah,
well, even if they're disciplined in like their normal job, it's like you enjoy this stuff. Like,
Yep.
if you take on entrepreneurship, you will lose all this. You will be miserable doing this,
yeah,
right? Like,
Yep.
I think a lot of people need to take a step back and realize that, like, hey, 80, 90,000 a year, Monday through Friday, holidays off, and every weekend off your life, and health
And
insurance,
PTO and all those things.
that is better than 99.99998% of anything you'll ever do as an entrepreneur, right? We don't do this because it's fun. I think a lot of people look at it and think all the cool things and, oh, it's all great. But I think we all know it's like, it's actually hell.
yeah,
It's a lot of work, and you have to be born for it. And I think it's also on us to not try to convince everyone to be an entrepreneur, right? I think a lot of people that are in business are like, oh, you should go start a business. And they force their kids into starting businesses, and then the kids are miserable. It's like, no, figure out what you're happy with, right?
Yep.
And I say all that because I have employees that love being employees and would
Yep.
never want this. And I applaud them. And they're like, oh, don't you want? No, it's like, no. Like, I
Yep.
want people to do what they enjoy. And I think we can all succeed and grow as that. But sorry, I got a little
yeah.
off the rails there.
No,
No,
yeah,
that's awesome.
That's definitely important stuff to think about. And there's a lot of people that, I mean, I think there's 30 million businesses, small businesses in the US, which is crazy. I mean, all the little mom and pop shops that are just struggling to make it by. And, if they just swallowed their ego and maybe were that employee instead of scraping by, it's a hard decision to make when you build something up for so long, but sometimes that's the smarter decision.
Yeah.
Not
So as
everyone's
well,
meant to be an entrepreneur and a leader and those things. Like, sometimes you're just meant to be an employee, and that's okay.
Yep.
like, when I
Oh,
talked to my old man, he goes, yeah, my boss today, and, not at his current job, for the record, whoever's listening to this, right? But at previous jobs, was like, gosh, my boss was rude today. Like, my boss was an a-hole. I could say
yeah,
terrible. My boss, he didn't let me leave my office for 12 hours straight. He made me
yeah,
go to bed early. I had to wake up early. I had to deal with all this crap. He didn't let, like, all the other employees came with all their issues to me. He
yeah,
wouldn't handle any of it. And he's like, you're your boss. I said, yeah,
I know.
I know.
exactly.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
So yeah, sometimes having a boss, no matter how rude your boss is, it's
Yep.
probably nicer than you are to yourself.
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
100%.
And even if you say you don't want to have a boss, your boss in our shoes are the customers, which are a lot harder on you than what your boss actually is, because without them, you have no business. So
I think a lot of people bring that up, like, oh, well, the customers become. It's not the customers; it's the customers, the damn IRS, your accountant,
Yeah.
all of your employees, your family
everything.
suddenly start to feel like a client, right? Because they're taking time away from what could be business things, so you're having to like move that
Balance.
around.
Yep.
Every single person you interact with, your banker's calling you, the
Yep.
attorney's calling you, like, you just went from having one boss to 50,
Yeah.
Yep.
and
They
you
all
ain't even
want your
got no
time.
customers yet. It's
Yeah.
Yep.
crazy.
Yep.
Yep. Oh,
For sure.
absolutely.
All right. Well, we are getting to end
Beautiful.
of the episode here.
All right.
If someone has, an issue with some insurance claim work or anything like that, how do they get a hold of you? Or if they maybe want to know more about how you become a public adjuster, what are ways they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, easiest way is just find us on Facebook, which is Clarion, Clarion Claims Group. Otherwise, our website is clarionclaims.com. But either
Perfect.
one of those have an option for you to contact us, reach out, and we're licensed in 8 different states, but we can always get licensure in other states if necessary. So anything you have going on, or even if we just have to advise you. So the point earlier is, if I can't help you, I'll find someone that can.
Sure.
Perfect.
Oh, that's great. It was great to meet you at the blackjack table at the conference. I'm glad that we crossed paths for sure, and look forward to working with you in the future. And we appreciate you having you on here for a podcast.
That was the most successful trip to a casino I've ever had.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, it's just like your
When you-
story with finding some of the Twins game. Life happens for a reason. So
Yep.
it does. It's unavoidable. So I appreciate you guys, and
Yep.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
Okay.
Good day
Thanks,
for
Sam.
a good day.
Thank you.